Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Today, Thomas Douglas Gabriel is going through the 28 crimes of Comey that we consider to be treasonous. In two previous audios, we went through crimes 1 through 20. We pick up now with 21.
Well, Betsy, this is just so wonderful because it just 100% shows that Comey's got to go to jail. Okay, Comey, number 21, he likes to talk about 17 U.S. intelligence agencies all agreed. Wrong. That's incorrect. There have been 3 Intelligence Committee investigations. The first one involved 500 people and over $50 million, according to the reports. And then there were 2 others. They found nothing except that Russia has news agencies in America, and that supposedly the DNC was hacked. Okay, that's all they found. No Trump collusion, conspiracy, connection, no obstruction, no crime, no nothing. Now, after spending literally tens of millions of dollars, why then did the House Intelligence Committee spend 2 years questioning 200 people and finding nothing, not one single speck of evidence of any Russian collusion with Trump or his team? And then the House did the same thing. And Nunes wrote an exoneration letter, and the Senate is basically not going to write their letter for a while, but they've come out twice now to say that they have found nothing. The House found nothing. And the Mueller investigation has come out 3 times now because William Barr just said it again. Nothing. No, excuse me, it wasn't William Barr. It was a statement from Mueller. Nothing. No collusion, no conspiracy, no corruption, no crimes, no obstruction.
Well, what is Adam Schiff doing? He says he's going to ramp it up over there at House Intelligence.
He says he has 85 separate investigations and hundreds of people he's going to question over the next 2 years because he's an idiot.
What a waste of time and money.
Over, $50 million on the Mueller investigation, or what we shall call the Mueller special counsel to impeach.
Well, will he be bringing Felix
million.
Sater in to question him?
Oh, heavens no, because Felix Sater would basically spill the beans, basically. And so when we're looking at number 21, remember Hillary sent out 8 messages saying that the 17 intelligence community agencies all agreed that Putin hacked the DNC and Putin was trying to get Trump elected. Folks, that is such a lie. That is the cover story. And it's so stupid, but it's such a big lie that people believed it. I mean, really, I always say you'd have to be pretty low intelligence to vote for Hillary, but they're using Tavistock methods. They're using behavioral control. They're using subliminal control. They're using, if you watched any of her commercials for her, I'm sorry, you got subliminally controlled, and you might actually believe that Hillary would make a good president. But anyway, she said 8 times that they all agreed. Wrong, wrong, wrong. In the end, Clapper said he didn't agree with any of it. In the end, there were only 4 of them that were involved, and the NSA said they didn't do any investigation. They were just used to have the information taken from. So the CIA, FBI, and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence all disagreed. So 17 intelligence agencies did not agree, Hillary. No 2 of them agreed, Hillary. And in fact, never were 17 of them involved. In fact, these were very limited investigations because you can see by what it is that they addressed. What they had done, actually, to be quite frank with it, the 2016 investigation that came first was nothing more than a repackaging of a previous investigation upon whether or not Russia, through Russia Today and Sputnik, were having any influences upon America. Not that they meddled in the election. They speak what they speak. They don't have a very big following, and I really don't think they affected many votes at all. So your investigation, the first one, complete hogwash. The second one was then made public, same thing, hogwash. The third one was kept secret. Then the Senate did theirs for 2 years, and then the House did theirs for 2 years, and then Mueller did his for these 18 months or whatever it's been, and they found nothing. Nothing, absolutely nothing, not one single speck. Not one tiny impropriety, not one single hint. But here's the reality. It wouldn't have been illegal if they did. Trump wanted a Trump Towers in Russia. He would have loved it in Crimea and loved it in Georgia. He would have loved all those connections when he was a businessman. But once he became the president, he divorced himself from his businesses, and so he can't have emolument clauses. And so to even insinuate some emolument clause, a violation here on Trump's part for Trump Towers and building these things, or for blah, blah, Russian connections, complete stupidity. And as I said, no two of these groups agreed. And that is the reason why you will see that even in the reports, they're practically sectioned out by what the different sections believed. And basically what they said was, he's as clean as a whistle, can't find anybody cleaner than him. All right, number 22. Comey uses the small group to rewrite his exoneration speech. Now remember, the small group is that group with that started with Page. Remember, Page is a regional director of the CIA. He has not been fired from the CIA. Peter Strzok is the regional director of the CIA. He is in counterintelligence. He then created the small group. The small group then involved the FBI counterintelligence. From that moment on, he was in charge. He used national security letters, and he basically controlled even the DOJ, the Department of Justice, the Secretary of State. He controlled them all. One man, and his dad was a CIA operative, and his family is well known for being in bed with the Iranians. I mean, I don't know how it can get any worse, but it doesn't take much to take these people down. But the small group, that group that was trying to make sure the election wasn't won by Trump, they clearly rewrote the exoneration speech that Comey gave for Hillary. They diffused every word in it that was a legal term, so that what he was going to say is, yes, she committed crimes. Oh, but we won't say crimes. We'll say, oh, she committed bad things, but we're not going to prosecute her. Well, no, she was never investigated. The midterm exam is what they called it, and she was not a person of interest. She was never investigated. She was never queried. There was no interrogation of her. Nothing was written down. There was no tape of it. And she was, in fact, never, ever considered to be a person who did anything wrong. And as we know, when Bill met Loretta Lynch on the tarmac, she turned around and changed it from a midterm exam investigation to a matter, so that it would absolutely mean nothing. Even if she was found to be completely with full intent and guilty, it would have meant nothing because Loretta Lynch would not have prosecuted, because Bill came in and said, look, Loretta, that what we set up for you after you're done, being a corrupt attorney general, we're not going to give you that money unless you stand up for us. And so she stood up for him and made sure that Comey knew that he could not prosecute her. But Comey had never, ever had a single moment of intention of prosecuting her. At the same time, don't forget, Comey was covering up with Andrew McCabe the 4 Clinton Foundation investigations, racketeering. And Jeannie Ray represented her in the racketeering and later became a member of the special counsel. How much crooked can you get than that? James Baker, Strzok, Page, everybody on Comey's bunk buddy team, which was literally a dozen people. They all knew this. They were talking about it in their text messages openly. They all got to come in and say, no, Mr. Comey, you're a stupid lawyer. You have to say she had no intent. You have to say no reasonable lawyer would ever take this case. You'd have to... They made up all that caca and put it in there, and that idiot allowed it to happen, and then he stood up and read it. You want to know why? Because he was getting nowhere with Trump, and he wanted to be fired because they wanted a special counsel so they could impeach him, because they could see he was going to win. Because at that moment, it was becoming evident that Hillary's campaign was faltering so bad, and that when the Wiener laptop came up, which we'll talk about here in a second, it was even worse. I mean, everybody knew then it was fake, okay? All right, point 23. Treasonous crime number 23, which Comey should go to jail for the rest of his life, along with his whole bunk buddies. And Lisa Page, she can go too, and so can Trish Anderson, so can all of them, Mary McCord, and so can McCobie, and all, please, and the beautiful Nellie. Oh, beautiful Nellie Orr, please take her too, because you know what? These people are not Americans. I don't care that they hate Trump. What they did is treasonous, and they knew it. And they full well knew it, and they had meetings where they literally talked about it, literally where they became so desperate that Rod Rosenstein was going to wear a wiretap to try to get Trump to say crazy things and then remove what Rosenstein had told him to get him to say crazy things, to use it as for the 25th Amendment to say Trump is insane. Okay, this is how far these crazy people went. And yes, assassination, we have Agent 1, Agent 5 stating threats of assassination to the president in text messages. And those are the ones they released. What is in the other text messages? I assure you, plans for assassination. There have been numerous plans and numerous attempts to assassinate the president, and we don't even hear them on the mainstream media. Not even when they involve, what are they called? Hand grenade launchers. Okay? Bombs. Recently. And had, well, I won't even go into it, but it sure does look like Nancy Pelosi had some timing issues with that very incident of an attempted assassination on Trump, so that her bus just kept driving around and around and around just before that assassin got there at the White House. And she wasn't supposed to come back because she was supposed to be headed on a plane to go to countries to basically defy the Logan Act and go to Afghanistan and go to other countries to basically say the opposite of what Trump is telling them. And she didn't get to go. And that assassination attempt almost involved her and her bus full of Democrats. Isn't that funny? And we don't hear a word about it now, do we? We don't hear that she drove around for 40 minutes in Washington, D.C. with the top leaders of the House in a bus until that attempt was made. Had she been delivered, she could have been part of the attempt. She could have been blown up. Poor Nancy. But now remember, Nancy is paid off by the Mexicans. Don't forget that. That's the reason that it's a sanctuary state that she represents. Maxine Waters. Why do you think the most vocal people, Adam Schiff, Dianne Feinstein, why are the most vocal people from California? Because they're the ones with the most to lose, because they've been paid off by California and the cartels. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot not to know that they want, if you don't think for 1 second Gavin Newsom is not paid off by Mexico because he is, in fact, the nephew of Nancy Pelosi, he would have got his piece, you're out of your mind. Think for a second, folks. Think for a second. I forget, 60,000 people killed by the cartel last year in Mexico? And you want to think for a second that leaving no wall between California and Mexico should be a concern of people in the Congress and the governor? But in fact, they're the ones who are saying, tear down the wall, let in the criminals? Think it through, folks. Number 23. Yes, Bill Clinton did meet Loretta Lynch on the tarmac, turn it into a matter. Isn't that just wonderful that he can do that? How can he do that? Well, he can do that because Hillary has the crypto keys and there's nothing that can be hidden. If there were documents, they can be hidden. Matter of fact, it took till now just to get some of the documents, and now we find that many of the documents they said there were no documents for the tarmac meeting, there were many documents, and now many of those are missing. Judicial Watch has gotten a lot of those. After they said there were none. After they said all listening devices and all taping devices on that plane was turned off. Yeah, lie. Okay, so what did Bill say to Loretta Lynch? Well, let's remember Loretta Lynch was deeply involved in the Wiener laptop, which we'll go to next. Let's go to 24. The Wiener laptop was found. It was found by New York police. They tried to give the FBI. The FBI didn't want it. The FBI refused to even write a search warrant to get it. And when they did, they didn't write enough to look at the very espionage material that came from Huma. The New York Police Department, we know through Eric Prince, looked at everything on it and said there was enough evidence to put Hillary behind bars for the rest of her life, and it was the grossest things they've ever seen in their life. These are policemen. These are mercenaries. Eric Prince is a mercenary. He said that he has never seen anything as bad as what was on that laptop. Okay? We also know that every single one of those messages was sent to China and everybody else who was part of Pay for Play. And we know that Huma Abedin is part of the Muslim Brotherhood and the Muslim Sisterhood. Their very newspaper is produced by her mother. So what are we dealing with here? Hillary had to be cleared. She had to be cleared of her emails of the server, of foreign gifts, of emolument acts, of Wiener's computer, of Huma's espionage, of her espionage, and all. She's just going to be innocent and say, oh, did I wipe my server? You mean with a towel? You mean with a rag? Oh, no, I'm going to personally refuse to obey your order and give you my messages from my server until I go through them and remove the ones I want. It's insane. It's insane. But when Bill and Hillary go down, the rest will all follow. And who will go down before that? That would be Comey. If Comey goes down, he's going to cry like a baby. He was given immunity from Mueller. He won't be given immunity by William Barr if there's another special counsel investigation. So, Comey, he's not only a liar and a leaker, he made it institutionalized by using his own lawyer and using the New York Times to leak the entire time he was the head of the FBI. He comes out and admits. This man put his lawyer, who works for the New York Times, on the payroll for the FBI as a leaker. He didn't call him a leaker, but he called him some special name, but that's what he was. He was paid to leak. And then why did Comey perjure himself obviously 3 times in Congress, and even the next day come back and say that one of them was a lie and he wanted to change his mind, which is too late anyway? Why? Because he could downgrade all of his crimes to perjury in a plea deal if it ever came to that. That's what was supposed to happen. He's not even going to get a perjury crime. He's not even going to be indicted for lying or leaking. He's not going to be indicted for lying to the president. He's not going to be indicted for the fact that he took confidential. Literally, it's higher than top secret. It's for the president's eyes only. He took conversations with the president and revealed them to the press and lied. Treason, a coup d'etat, meddling in the election. On and on and on and on. You cannot name all the crimes of Comey. And so if you cannot, and we've said all along, he's the plug of the swamp, pull him out, the swamp will drain. He's being protected by Mueller now. Mueller doesn't really have anywhere else to turn. He might blame conspiracy on Roger Stone, but that has nothing to do with Trump. Doesn't matter. The mainstream media will still say Mueller found Trump guilty. Absolutely, completely absurd. Number 25. Comey lied to the president 3 times and told him there was no investigation. There was. There was the Crossfire Hurricane counterintelligence operation. Now, why did Comey lie? He wanted to be fired. He wanted to get Trump doing something wrong. Terribly wrong. Firing Comey, the man who is just, like Mueller, beyond reproach, ethical beyond imagination. No. Comey wanted to be fired, and then he leaked the information so that they're trying to trip Trump up. They've been trying all along, but he's too smart for them because he's smart enough to outsmart Michael Cohen, who blackmailed him and recorded things. Get me a Coke! Or paid whores and didn't tell him, or whatever. He can't outsmart Trump. Michael Cohen's going to jail, not Trump. There was no campaign illegal funding to those 2 whores from David Brock, or the whore that Mueller just went over and sprung from jail in Thailand, and then a Russian whore who said she had all the information. Well, Mueller's so desperate that he went over and paid for her to be sprung and used his influence to spring her from jail in Thailand, which doesn't happen, by the way. She went to Russia and said it's all a lie. Sorry, I used you, Mr. Mueller. That's how desperate Mueller is to find any Russian that has any dirt on Trump. And so when Comey lied and said there was no investigation of Trump, that was not only perjury, that was not only lying to the president, that proves his conspiracy, it proves the coup d'etat, it proves that the 13 names for that group, was nothing more than now an attempt to impeach the president. Number 26. Don't forget that after he was elected, that Comey continued all of this. Unbelievable. And that he used the FISA warrant as an insurance policy. He didn't spring that on anybody. He renewed it 4 times. But in fact, it's never had a hearing. So he thought that he could get out of anybody ever seeing that.
Well, what does Judge Roberts do about this? He's supposed to be supervising all these FISA judges.
Judge Collier wrote a correction order to the failed 2016 Office of Inspector General investigation of the FISA court, and even that hasn't been implemented. There's not going to be any adjusting the CIA, FBI, and the DOJ in terms of who they surveil. We already know that. Dan Coats was told to stop all surveillance of Americans, 30 days to do it. We're all still surveilled. Matter of fact, we're surveilled more than ever, and we're targeted now. And if we're conservatives, then you're annihilated. So what is going on here is that Comey continued this, and he needed to get himself fired because he saw the trouble they were all in. They had their insurance policy, but the insurance policy wasn't going to do any good because Carter Page wasn't a spy. Comey had sworn an oath that Carter Page was a spy. Both national security letters and the FISA warrants. Nope, not a spy. So Comey knew that he was toast. So what he tried to do was set up the president with all that crazy junk he did with the president, all that dancing around nonsense, all the lies, all the reporting that is from private conversations with the president. Private conversations with the president. Nothing is actually a higher classification than that, especially when it's with the director of the FBI. And yet Comey came out and wrote his 302s and gave them to the public. And they were lies. And then he wrote a book based upon those lies. And nothing happens to him because he has immunity. Now, this is treason. These are capital crimes of treason and sedition. It's much worse than that. It's what they call him the head of the resistance with Trump during that time. No, it's a color revolution. It's a coup d'etat. Call it a soft coup, call it whatever you want. It is treason. And Comey directed it. We've given you 26 reasons, and in them, some of them have 5 treasonous crimes inside of each one of these 28 points. And so really what it amounted to was he became an enemy combatant of the United States of America. And he needs to be arrested and then questioned, because we've already heard all the lies. We don't need to hear another word out of his mouth. We need to have a grand jury where the star witnesses come and simply testify and don't even ask him any questions. We don't need to ask him any questions. We've already heard all of his answers. We've heard all of his many lies. Don't need to hear any more. These liars, like when Andrew McCabe and Rod Rosenstein want to call each other liars, these are liars calling each other liars. What we need is just simply to show the evidence, and then we need to make sure that it's reported so that it never happens again in our country. Treasonous crime of Comey, number 27. He not only perjured himself, he also exonerated Hillary, which he knew was illegal because he let the second or first largest espionage case in America absolutely go uninvestigated. And then he attacked Trump illegally, both during the election as President Trump elect and as President Trump coup d'etat. He is a leaker. He is a liar. He was at war with the United States government, the U.S. Constitution. He was completely out of control. Why? Because he and Mueller and McCabe and the whole gang, Lynch and Obama and all of them committed crimes that they have to go to jail for. There's no way around this. Using the DC excuse that you're an elite or that you're a politician or that you're too high of a politician or you've been a politician too long, so therefore we will not, under any circumstances like Jeff Sessions was, even look in your direction, Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton. That's got to end. It's got to end now. And when the Mueller investigation's over, we start another special counsel investigation where, in fact, we actually ask questions of the real Russian criminals who are right here in our midst. In fact, the leader of the Trump resistance movement was James Comey. He essentially was the one leading the investigation for impeachment. He likes to say that he didn't know what Andrew McCabe was doing and that it's all Andrew McCabe's fault. Those are lies. That's why we don't get Comey's and McCabe's text messages, because if we did, we'd see that they were 100% complicit. We know they're complicit because we have them in meetings where these things are discussed, where people have come out and said it, where we have their testimony We know what they've done. And so essentially, Comey was taken over by Mueller, and Mueller's investigation is an investigation to impeach Trump. But they can't find anything. All they can do is exonerate him. As we predicted, they can't find nothing. Now, we actually predicted that long before this report was written a year ago. We predicted it long before that. And, we knew that Trump was going to get elected, and we knew why. We knew that Uranium One was the issue, and that what they had done, the many, 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 many lies, and that their campaign had then rested on its laurels. The reason it rested on its laurels is because Hillary couldn't be seen out in public because she could be asked a question that could completely destroy her entire campaign. One question. One question is all it would take. A person reading an indictable fact in relationship to her, no matter what her spin, her rhetoric is, it would not hold up. Because why? We know her guilt. Everyone should know her guilt. But Comey was there to cover, and now Mueller is there to cover. So let's go on to the 28th and last, which could be easily number 50, if we wanted to, is Comey was given immunity by Mueller. We believe that. We don't know that, but we predicted that then, and it must be true because look at what he's done. He's come out and talked about more privileged conversations with the president. He wrote a book. He revealed stuff that were leaks directly from Mueller's special counsel investigation from the beginning. We know that Mueller and he met even before Comey had that meeting before Congress. So right there, their collusion, horrible. The special counsel hadn't impaneled the grand jury yet, so therefore he couldn't have immunity at that point. So from the beginning, Mueller and Comey worked together, even with Comey's testimony, which was lies, before Congress and then later. So we don't know. We don't even know if Comey has been questioned by the Mueller counsel, special counsel. We don't even know that. Leaks on everything else, but we don't know that. We say he is their star witness who was given immunity. Immunity just like Podesta and others, just like Joseph Mifsud and Stephen Rowe and so many of the others, Stephen Halper. They're given immunity when they testify. In other words, their crimes are forgiven, covered up, and no one ever gets to hear a leak about them. Now, do we? Not a single word do we hear about the real criminals who do get questioned by Mueller for only one reason, and that's to receive immunity. So, in the end, 3 horrors, 25 fake Russians, 2 dead Russian companies, a catering company, some low-hanging fruit, and some process crimes. And in fact, that Mueller investigation, which Comey started by his acting so bad that he had to be fired. And remember, Rosenstein fired him. So did Sessions, because his actions were so deplorable that even the Democrats hated him and for what he did to Hillary. They think he lost the election for Hillary. And yet, nothing happens to Comey? How is that possible? It's because, of course, the Mueller investigation is the Mueller investigation to impeach, which was a continuation of John Brennan's investigation, which was a continuation of Comey's anxious attempt to help Hillary get elected and to help the Democratic National Committee when it was revealed that Russia was their problem. The Hillary-Russia connection, collusion, corruption, and their obstruction of justice with all of the issues concerning that. Obstruction of justice with the Federal Elections Commission, $84 million from Maine alone that Hillary stole, let alone the 17 primaries that she stole from Bernie, let alone the George Soros illegal money, let alone what Podesta was doing with the Russians, on and on and on and on and on. Foreign agents helping her. One of the Russian spies was supposedly right there with Hillary, on and on and on and on and on. So what is really going on here? Comey needs to go to jail. And that turkey at first was running around acting and saying and insinuating that he might run for president. But that's what the evil ones do. They tell a bigger lie. And when the last lie, people stop believing it, tell a bigger lie. So now we have the Robert Mueller Special Counsel investigation, which is a bigger lie based upon the 12 previous lies of the small group, the secret society, the committee to impeach, the Trump gang, all the different names they had. What a joke. They're making fun of the fact that they are telling we the people that they don't have to obey the law. And they don't even care if they leave a gigantic trail of crime behind them, because they know that fake justice, the courts, that the Department of Justice won't prosecute them, that the FBI won't do a thing, and that if they were given the word above, just like when Loretta Lynch gave the word to the to the New York Police Department, that she was going to go after one of their police officers for the accidental heart attack death of someone they were arresting, well, it shows that she's complicit too. And then she quit right after that. Isn't that funny? So we know by their actions who the criminals are. Comey is the biggest criminal of all. We could go into still, literally right now, I could sit back, use no notes, and tell you another 25 crimes of Comey since then, since he was fired. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to ask you to realize that when we mention an intelligence report that we want you to go read, that it's chock full of this kind of information, and that it's indictable, that there's the everything that you need to know here. All you have to do is literally Google it, pull it up, look at our report, and realize that what's going on in Washington, D.C., it's the Washington District of Crime, and that Comey and Mueller, they worked together at HSBC. They worked together when they were in the DOJ and FBI. They worked together in hedge funds and banks. They are one and the same. Comey is the shadow of Mueller. When Comey got in trouble, I guarantee you Mueller was telling him from that point on, look, you're blowing it, dude. You're blowing it. And so when he then leaked and knew that there'd be a special counsel appointed, they already had Robert Mueller in mind, and Robert Mueller was going to come save the day. He's the one who covered up for 911. He's the one who was part of hiding the evidence and changing the federal process for producing evidence that then affected the Oklahoma bombing, Waco. It affected all these things. When you look at Robert Mueller's crimes, it is a non-stop history of crime. Same for Comey. Absolutely blatant crimes, working for Lockheed, working for Mellon Optima. You name it, we could go on and on and on. Why does anyone listen to these people? So don't take it seriously. It's not going to come to anything. And as we said a year ago, and even before a year, nothing will come except what we said. Some horrors, some fake Russians, some fake companies, some low-lying fruit, and unfortunately, some process crimes where they catch you lying when in fact you probably didn't lie to begin with. So, Comey's 28 crimes of treason? Oh, there's at least those, and Mueller's right there with him, and there's a whole gang of people. We've listed them in this report. Those are the people which now, when you look at some of the best people out there writing articles, they list all these people, and they show their pictures, and they mention what their crimes were. This is the largest conspiracy in U.S. history, and it is not going away.